Hello, I'm Nom. I'm from the MonkeDAO. I'm one of the current board members and co-founders. You've probably also seen one of my other board members, Mac, who has been hard at work this entire time on our laptop. And this is Lesley, one of our developer monkeys, who I'm very happy to have help show as a part of this presentation for what she's working on. Just going to go over quickly what MonkeDAO is for anyone who isn't aware of it, as well as to talk about the good things that we're doing inside of the ecosystem. And then we're going to do a little bit more of a demonstration on something that we think is going to help improve the Solana ecosystem, and especially for DAOs as a whole. So MonkeDAO is essentially a community based around the Solana Monkey Business NFT. It's a collection of 5,000 that came out in August of 2021. And we realistically just wanted to focus on multiple different community activations and awareness opportunities. So taking all of the standard NFT collections, focusing on marketing, merchandise, community activations in terms of news or public-facing media, and really just try to bring that to Solana for what we saw in DAOs on other ecosystems. So we were one of the first NFT DAOs, and I think we're one of the more successful ones. But we really want to focus on being a collection of developers and artists and project builders, rather than people who are kind of just engaging in what's called market neutral activities that aren't necessarily giving back to the ecosystem. We really wanted to have our identity as people who are actively helping and building. Hopefully the merch on people that you're seeing in the audience shows that, and we're very proud of everyone that we have as a part of our community. So what we're doing right now is we're essentially working on running events across multiple continents. So we're trying to have 4 or 5 continents worth of events for representing our monkey members by the end of the year. We're working through our multiple different podcasts, newsletters, interviewing processes to highlight what monkeys are doing inside of the ecosystem, as well as, working through running a venture capital firm called Monkey Ventures, which is investing into projects inside of the Solana ecosystem that any member is allowed to be a part of. And then we also provide, a lot of gaming events and organizational activities along with our alpha minters, which is the standard, I think, DAO operations inside of Solana right now. On top of that, what we really want to focus on is being value additive to the ecosystem. A lot of NFT projects especially, and a lot of DAOs are relatively top level. They sit on top of the ecosystem and use a lot of tools, but they don't necessarily give back or improve anything that's going on. Some of them are even value extractive, where they just take money or people out of the ecosystem. And that's not in our mindset. I don't think that's positive or contributes to the long-term health of Solana. So we really focus on things like running the first NFT validator to directly secure the network. We created a liquid staking solution to continue to handle the Nakamoto coefficient and the superminority of validators by sponsoring and educating other communities to run their own validators. We're up to 15 now. We're trying to get to 100 by the end of the year. And then on top of that, we were lucky enough to beat Sebastian to be the first on-chain NFT voting protocol for something that we ran in February, which is now integrated into Realms in a superior version. And on top of that, we want to just continue to build educational resources for teaching people as much as possible. A lot of things in Solana, we really like the idea of chewing glass and making, a light of how difficult things are on Rust, or to build on top of these composable projects. That's probably not the best way to encourage new developers or community members to come in and want to build things. So we want to make the educational side of this as easy as possible, and especially just to teach people that it's not as hard as they might think. For example, we got the complexities of running and setting up a validator from, pages of documentation into a 8-minute YouTube video that anyone can set up within about 12 hours. So that's a lot of talking about what makes MonkeDAO good. Some of the things that we know that we need to work on is what I've highlighted in our DAO structure. Right now we run a organizational board and committee structure that we're trying to work on, focusing away from a centralized group of developers or people who are in charge. We understand that sub DAOs is likely the way that we can improve that in the future, just so that there's no central point of failures. If I get into a plane crash on my way back to Canada, that would not be great for MonkeDAO, and we want to get rid of as much of that key man risk as possible. We've tried a bunch of different governance structures. We're looking at projects like Grape in terms of what they're doing in their sub-DAOs, and we think that's probably the best model to replicate just for what we're working on. again, keying off of what Dean and Chris have talked about before, we do a lot of polling in our decision making. We don't necessarily do a lot of voting. The key difference in there, where once we have a poll, we're still relying on a centralized group of people to go and make those decisions and make them happen. Some of that is because there's no Realms plugin for automatically organizing merchandise and design philosophy yet. I'm hoping that we can we can help build that. But a lot of the decisions that we're making as a community DAO are not things that we can represent with on-chain voting right now. So there's still an issue there that we're working through, and we're trying to improve as much as possible. And then the third and biggest one is organizational incentives. Right now, it's very idealistic in terms of what people are trying to accomplish and what we're hopefully working on to improve DAOs in the ecosystem and to be a highlight of that. But right now, a lot of our contributors are working for free on a volunteer basis or aren't necessarily being rewarded as much as they should for what they're contributing to the ecosystem. So whether we're following that through a token or other means of rewards is something that we have top of mind. We don't necessarily want to succumb to brain drain. We're very proud of all of the things that our people are working on, but we also want to incentivize them to come back and continue to give back to MonkeDAO and grow the ecosystem rather than taking opportunities to go work elsewhere. There's a fourth thing, but I'm not allowed to announce that yet. So this is my teaser to make you wanting more and to listen to announcements. So that's enough of me. I want to highlight one of our development teams, which is Lesley working through Moonlit. If you want to talk about that.
Thank you. Is this working? Yeah. So hi, everyone. I'm Lesley. For those of you that don't know me, I've met a bunch of you here, but my background, I've worked in technology my whole life. I'm not technical, but I've always worked in technology. Before I was involved with Nom and MonkeDAO, I had an app development company. We built apps in the wellness space. And a lot of what we thought about was, how do you get people to do things that are good for them or that you want them to do? And what kind of technology do you need to build and behavioral economics you need to bring into the picture to get that to happen? And the first thing that I started to do when I was part of MonkeDAO and I met Nom was really sit down and say, well, what problem are we trying to solve? There's a million problems that we could tackle. But let's get down to the nuts and bolts of what the problem is. And I've spoken to a bunch of people in DAOs, and I'm obviously part of several DAOs myself. And I think if you look down this list, any of these were areas that any of us could tackle, right? They're all problems. Onboarding is something people are looking at. Not enough people participating in the vote. Maybe it's only 10%. The voting on chain versus off chain, is that something we need to look at? Discord, don't even start me. Communication is broken. There's too much information. There's not enough information. The board's too big. There's 16 of them. They're not, they're taking too much time to make decisions or whatever. We need sub-DAOs. We need to move faster. People are just greedy. People don't want to work. They're lazy. People just want airdrops. They want to just stake their token, and they don't want to do work. So where do you start? And what we discovered was, people who are in DAOs are very, very passionate about the community, or at least a proportion of them are. And this is the proportion that we want. This is the proportion that really matters and is really going to move the DAO forward. And they want to be involved. They want to help out how they can. They want to contribute in some way and feel like a valuable member of the community. But they don't really know how to. And, they'll take time and they'll attend the town halls and they'll jump into Discord and they'll get to know the individual personalities. But all of that takes time and can be quite intimidating. And I think, also as a female, it can be very intimidating to jump into a whole bunch of, GM sir. I'm like, okay. And I think one of the things that I've learned from my time, I was co-founder of FanDuel, which is a sports betting company. And one of the things, when we were thinking about how do we attract people to FanDuel, we did a lot of testing of advertising and messaging. And the thing that really appealed to people to join in the first place was free money, right? No shit. Okay. Free money. Great. But once they were in, when you talk to them about why do you play FanDuel? Why do you enjoy it? Why do you keep coming back? The top answer was always, it's fun. You're like, oh, that's not helpful. Okay, it's fun. Let's dig into that a little bit more. Why is it fun? Oh, you can win money. Okay, what's fun about that? And then it's like, oh, well, there's a possibility of winning money. Okay. And then when you really got down to it, what people enjoyed the most was proving that they knew sports. And they would take screenshots of their position in the leaderboard. And yeah, they would talk about how much money they'd won in this particular contest. But actually what they were doing was trying to get to the top of the leaderboard because they knew more than everyone else. And so it's that idea of being a valuable member of the DAO and being respected by other people in the DAO and being rewarded in some way. It doesn't necessarily have to be money, although we all love free money. But how can we recognize each other as valuable contributors? Sorry, go back.
Too fast, my bad.
And you know, there's a bunch of stuff around. I'm not voting because I don't really understand enough about what everybody's doing. I don't really understand enough about the DAO to be confident that I'm going to vote in the right way. So how do we fix for that? How do we solve for that? We get you engaged. We get you to understand at least one part or one project so that you become an expert in that area. And then that will encourage you to participate more. And it becomes a virtuous circle. I want to know that there's some kind of cause and effect between how I'm contributing and, floor goes up. And tying in the DAO's objectives with what I'm doing and really understanding that is important to me as well. So given all of this information and these motivations, what do we build? First of all, we defined some guiding principles. How are we going to approach this at a high level? DAOs are all about people, particularly MonkeDAO. This is about a community of people who respect each other and want to hang out together, really. And so our approach was, this is not a tool for the core team. This has to be for the contributors. We need to get the contributors to participate. So anything that we build needs to focus on them. It has to be easy to use and it has to be mobile first. We are on these things all the time. So let's not set it up to be desktop first. As I said before, we want to encourage the right behaviors and discourage the wrong behaviors. This is not about greed. This is not about unhealthy competition. This is about, and I think somebody said it yesterday or the day before, how do we balance competition with collaboration? And oh my God, let's not reinvent the wheel. Okay, we're not building Trello for Web3. We're not, we have to have it. We have to meet people where they are. They're on Discord. They're using the board's using Realms. We all have a Phantom wallet. Let's meet people where they are and just make this as easy as possible for them. Moonlit. Moonlit.team, if you want any more information. It's a pretty basic website, but it's there. Some cool cartoons on there that you might like. So I've just got some screenshots. This is launching next month. I want you to imagine you're part of MonkeDAO and there's been a proposal made to do something. What happens after that proposal is approved? Who knows, right? It might happen, it might not happen, I don't know. Here we have a list of projects that you can get involved with. So these are all proposals that have passed. They're looking for team members. You can find people here that you can collaborate with. You can find projects that you can jump in on. And it's almost think of it as, how do you advertise for people to help you out? So maybe you've been tasked with designing a new t-shirt or organizing an event, how do you get people to come and help you? Well, you put up an ad. You can easily see, who's going to approve it, who's on the team, and you can jump in really quickly. And you can also see how much monkey token you're going to make for helping out here. And then what about if I just want to find people? Discord is not helpful for this. On the left here, you can see, we've got a people tab here. This is a list of everyone who's in the MonkeDAO. Whether or not they've logged into Moonlit before, they're going to be listed here. And you're going to immediately see who's available and wanting to work for the DAO versus, do you know what? I'm just here for the NFT, right? I don't have time, or I don't have bandwidth, or I'm not interested.
There's nothing wrong with people who are here just for good vibes, who don't necessarily want to be active contributors, but we need to essentially separate who wants to be an active contributor.
Exactly. So you see the ones with it highlighted in green are the ones that are keen to help. The other ones have actively said, no, I'm not. I don't have the time, or I'm not interested. And then we've got a really powerful search function, which allows you to search by Discord roles, skills, projects you've worked on before, how you want to help. And then you get this sort of shortened list. You can click into any of these and you can see the one that we've picked here is Cup of Soup. And Cup of Soup can go in there and fill out their profile any way they want. They can add in whatever skills they want. And we'll populate this with roles from Discord. And they can also write a little bit about why they're here, why they're part of MonkeDAO, how do they want to help us move the DAO forward. So like I said earlier, they're going to be able to signal to the DAO, I want to help, I don't want to help, and why they're there. I think we can flick on to the next one. And then you're going to get paid in Monkey for your efforts. So all of this will be, as I said, integrated with the wallet, and you're going to see exactly what you've been paid for doing what. Go on to the next one. And then all of that's going to be posted on your profile and searchable. And you can see here everyone who's worked with you and vouched for you as a quality monkey. So Nom's worked with me. He's going to vouch for me that, yeah, I'm reliable. I do what I say I'm going to do. So when I'm looking for people to collaborate on my next team, I'm going to look here and say, well, who's vouched for this person before? Which I think is super powerful. Is that the end?
I think that's all we've got.
That was it?
So our main focus with what we want to do with Moonlit is essentially not just separate people who want to be very active contributors on a day-to-day basis, wake up in the crack of dawn and say, oh, I really want to help out monkeys. What can I do? We also want to say, okay, someone who has an hour a week and just wants to do a small amount of graphic design work or contribute to tokenomics or help out with project management. Any one of those are all equally valid as someone who wants to put in 80 hours a week into being the lifeblood of your DAO. Mm-hmm. And right now, in terms of the tooling that we're using for managing projects and organizing a lot of these different parts of being the DAO, really benefits the people who spend a lot of time in the DAO already, which as you want to scale these organizations and you want to take a lot of the load off of those active contributors to handle burnout or other opportunities that they might have come along, you can't just keep designing for people who are in your DAO every single day. You need to design for people who are coming in so that they have an understanding. Okay, I just joined the DAO. I said GM to every single person that's inside of it, did my Twitter post about getting the NFT or whatever this is, and then how do I contribute? What's next? What do I have to listen to? How can I get some sort of reward? How can I show that I'm useful, right? And that's a lot of what people, I think, want to do inside of a DAO or inside of any community is prove that they have value, which is what goes back to how you were discussing FanDuel is, whether or not you want to be right or whether or not you want to make money or whether or not you want to create something, you have this need, I think, in a lot of these different communities to show that you're able to do something useful. And that's what I think Moonlit is going to be really good at helping MonkeDAO do, because right now we have, 2,600 unique members, but we're realistically only capturing contributions from about 100 to 200, depending on how big you make the contribution bucket. So if you look at it, it's great that we have 200 people who are helping out, but it also means that we're not serving 2,400 people. And that's something that we're trying to tackle, so that the top 10% isn't doing all the things and designing the DAO. Because at that point, you might as well not have a DAO. You might as well just have a regular centralized organization if we're only serving people who are actively contributing every single day of their lives. Right. As fun as going to all the hacker houses is and traveling around and seeing things, there's a bunch of monkeys who are not here that I would love to get more involved. And that's what these tool sets are supposed to be about. So thank you for presenting. I appreciate it. And thanks for coming up here so that my presentation looks better. Yeah, I'm not sure how we're doing for time for any of these other things, but perfect. If you have any questions, please go ahead.
So I have 50,000 questions, but like the amount of pain that this solves is like immense, at least in concept. I suppose my first question is this going to be a good place for sort of permissionless bounty boards? Permissionless bounty boards. There we go. Permissionless bounty boards and sort of bifurcating active users into saying like, oh, this person has been vouched for by like 8 people that are eligible for this level of bounty.
We're building in a way that allows us to be flexible. So the whole ethos of how I've always built products is you build the smallest amount you can, and then you learn, and then you figure out where to go next through talking with people and seeing how they're using the product. So what we're not doing is build. We could take this a million different ways, but we're not building all of that before we start using it. So we're going to get it out into MonkeDAO, see how people are using it, and see what the issues are, and then we can test exactly like you're saying around permissions. This kind of solves for tipping and bounties and payroll and everything. We have person-to-person payments. So you start this kind of ecosystem around Monkey Token that you can pay each other in Monkey Token super simply. Just if you know their Discord ID. So it solves a lot of different problems. And we can start to, for example, each epoch, we can say, okay, the people who have earned the most monkeys in this particular epoch will get extra merch or even extra voting powers or whatever we decide that can be, and we will do a lot of testing around what's really going to motivate people and talking with the community, and they will help us figure out what do you guys want, because there's no point in us sitting in a darkened room and designing this reward system without people actually taking part.
Yeah, no DAO reward system is going to work for every single organization. If I want Dust or Foxy from participating in those communities, or if I want DAA beer, or if I want a monkey hat, like we need to just say, here's a reward mechanism. You choose what goes into this funnel, essentially. For us, it's going to be Monkey Token to start.
Right. And the rewarding can be done through this, but the design can be manual. It's like, okay, we're all going to decide this. We'll vote on the proposal. It's passed. Great. So this is how we're going to reward people this epoch. And it doesn't have to be built into the product from the word go.
Right. That's really cool.
Great presentation. Thank you, guys. And I'm also like thinking about how we can use this. As far as the user roles, like what are the role types? I assume there's an administrator for Moonlit and then a user.
So the role types are all set at a Discord level. So we've got the core team, we've got the board, we've got alpha minters, we've got a lot of different roles. And then what we'll have is an interface that says, if you're this particular role, then you get these permissions. Keep it simple.
Who's setting which permissions go to which?
Initially, it will be the core team of the DAO figures out what they want, and then we'll set it at a DAO level for them.
Okay, so it would be like the first person to create the MonkeDAO instance is basically like the founder, or I mean, I'm assuming you're going to be the first one.
Yeah. So it'll be the same way right now of what we're doing with like creating a Realms instance of what we just showed is like someone has to set up and do those initial first instructions, and then it runs essentially mostly autonomously. I say we can probably do that.
Yeah. And it's literally, there's a link to install the bot in Discord, and it's really super simple.
Okay, so it's pulling from Discord to understand, okay, these are people that are part of the DAO. So you would be relying on your Matrica instance to decide this person is still within this app space.
Yes.
So if I list my monkey while I'm in the middle of a project, it would remove me from the application.
Yes.
Okay.
Nom doesn't know.
I did not have an answer to that question, which is why you're here, and I just look pretty.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, just echoing a lot of the people who've spoken. Really excited to see this come to life. I know when I was at Olympus DAO, we could have used this quite a bit. And the notion of both meeting people where they are and building for members as opposed to core contributors. Because admittedly, with Realms and a lot of these other projects, we're building for sort of the core team of the DAO. So seeing tooling for members, I think is really great. Nom, question for you. And this meshes well with our analytics panel later today, but I'm curious to hear, like, is there a North Star metric that you look at for MonkeDAO where you say, hey, this is what success means for us, whether it's, the price of Solana Monkey business, whether it's value of the treasury, revenues coming in, whether it's, broad exposure and awareness of Solana Monkey business. Do you have something that you look at and you say, hey, here's my North Star metric for this DAO?
Yeah, my biggest thing that I always look at, which me and a couple other board members talk about, is it's very easy to say that you don't care about floor price, but I mean, the people who are buying your NFT probably care about floor price, so you have to have at least some acknowledgement of that. What we look at is the number of unique wallets, and which you can reference as mostly the number of unique holders for people. Obviously, some people have multiple wallets, etc. But as long as your unique membership is continually going up, as well as your daily active membership in terms of Discord, Twitter, whatever analytics or social media platforms that you're using, as long as your DAO is getting more active in terms of what's going on, I think that's the long-term success metric. In the recent downturn, if your treasury value is going up, that's great. I don't think that's there. Sometimes that's outside of your control, depending on your active treasury management strategies. But ideally, yes, you have to look at running DAOs essentially the same as running businesses, where you either need to be growing the people who are involved in your DAO, or you need to be growing the value of your DAO. Otherwise, maintaining either one of those metrics long term, while the network is growing and expanding and the people that we're onboarding is continuing to increase every single day, essentially means you're losing market share. So if less people want to be a part of your organization, you're likely doing something wrong. So short answer, I just look at the number of active people and the number of active wallets that we have. And as long as both of those metrics are continuing to increase, I assume that the majority of people are happy with what we're doing or want to be a part of what we're doing. You can have short-term discontent over a variety of issues, but as long as your longer-term metrics are improving, I think that's what you need to do. We're also, 8 months old as a DAO, which seems like a very long time in terms of Solana NFTs, but is a relatively short period of time in terms of DAOs in any space or organizations in general. So I think we have room to move on a lot of those metrics.
In those 8 months, have you seen sort of core drivers for those metrics, like certain things moving the needle around, the daily active members or members coming into the DAO versus other things? Controversy
is great. If you can really piss off a group of people, boy, will you get engagement. The probably more sustainable way of doing that is, rather than chasing certain trend metas, which is what a lot of projects are doing and a lot of DAOs I think are doing, which is fine for if you want to be a second mover on a lot of these different things. Instead, we are trying to look at different areas where no one is talking about things, where we can be the first mover with the minimal amount of effort, so that we can continue to move fast. So I always recommend just like find a core value that like DGOT or DAA's beer is a great example. Like no one was doing that. We've been working on the idea of Monkey Rum, but that's been taking a long time just for shipping and other reasons. But DAA is going to be the first alcohol brand on Solana, from my understanding, unless there's one that I'm missing. And that's awesome because that's just a flag that they can plant and say, perfect, we're first. Finding something like that your community resonates with, that will be essentially a rallying cry that you can refer to whenever people ask, what are you doing? It is the easiest way to just drive further engagement. And it's just going to get people to talk about you more when, unfortunately, we are in a market where hype and marketing is a very, very valuable piece of staying relevant.
Awesome. Thank you.
Please stump me with questions. I love looking foolish on stage.
Have you thought at all about opening up like the projects or the tasks to people that wouldn't be part of the DAO, right? Like there may be people that want to contribute, have, great skills, would love to earn some monkey, but don't have, can't afford the floor price, right? And solve some of the barrier of entry problems.
Yeah, it's definitely something we've talked about, the ability to make certain tasks private versus public. And we've set it up in a way where you can also be part of multiple DAOs. So when you first log in from Discord, you'll see all the DAOs that you're a member of that have the Moonlit plugin. So you can jump into all the different DAOs that you're part of.
We're pretty aware that the floor price of a lot of NFTs makes it hard for actively onboarding contributors, especially in terms of there's usually only one access mechanism. You're in or you're out, whether or not you hold the NFT. There's no way to have partial exposure to it or to be working your way up for a lot of these different things. So whether or not you follow a tokenomics model like what Grape is doing in terms of being a part of the Grape DAO or some sort of hybrid mechanism is something that we're aware of. And we think that this is going to be at least a starting way where we can have people who are not necessarily members of MonkeDAO at least be contributing to MonkeDAO or working on a way where they can feel like they're a part of the community. Again, trying to make sure that everyone feels welcome is hard to do behind a $10,000 paywall, but that's a problem that we're working on.
And also, where we want to start is we have this community of 2,000 plus highly skilled people. So let's start there. Let's nail this for them and
it's free beta testing.
prove that it happens, right? Prove that it moves those needles and prove that it makes a difference. And then we open it up to Joe or Bob or whoever who's not part of the DAO.
I was hoping you could talk a little bit on decentralization as a group of people in a DAO. NFT projects on Solana, they all start centralized. Like I can't think of one that actually started decentralized in any meaningful capacity. So in terms of dealing with the original team and kind of the pitfalls and difficulties that kind of you experienced with trying to decentralize in a meaningful capacity.
Yeah, we realistically, we started as just a bunch of people who had minted the NFT and were very excited about it. Our development team was working on, the original SMB developers were working on a marketplace because there was only one real marketplace on Solana at the time and we were not listed on it. So we essentially grew out of the OTC trading community for the SMB NFTs. That moved itself into different methods of communication, whether it was Telegram or different Discord group chats, which is what eventually became the original MonkeDAO server. And even then, that was relatively centralized because that was, it started with 8 people. It rapidly grew to about 50 or 60. And then by the time we actually started the DAO, we only had about 200 members, but we had essentially a leadership structure that was about 5 to 7 people. And as the ecosystem grew, some of those original contributors went and formed their own different projects, which is great. And again, something that we want to encourage, but also meant that we were losing a lot of people inside of the DAO and it was just becoming more centralized just in terms of the active contributors were leaving, so more responsibility got put on a few or smaller amounts of active contributors. So we kind of reset our governance structure in terms of an elected board. We saw 8 different verticals that we knew needed to be addressed, and that's everything from marketing to project management to merchandise to DeFi and finance protocols to technical development. And we elected people from inside of the DAO specifically to handle each one of those roles. That's probably what's going to evolve into more of our sub-DAO structure to be handling that. Committees, I think, were a good midpoint, but we're not long-term sustainable. There's been a few issues of governance bloat, and just it's difficult to continue to get people to be working through a lot of those issues at the same time. So I'm going off on a tangent, not answering your question. There's been a lot of difficulties for organizing decentralization, especially when you're kind of organically starting a group that turned into a DAO. And the main part of that is finding whatever motivates people, whether it's being right or being on top of a leaderboard or proving that they have some sort of value inside of the ecosystem, or for a lot of people, it was to gain perceived social presence that they then leveraged on other projects. It's hard to figure out what makes people tick, and there's no one right answer, I think, for a lot of these different things. We're still working on it. But I think that as long as you're just encouraging people to continually try and give back to a community, whether it's your NFT community or the Solana NFT community or the development community as a whole, you're just going to naturally continue to acquire more members, and thus just decentralize, maybe not by purpose, but by practice, and just in terms of the people that you're getting actively working on your specific thing.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, the app looks awesome. So I'm kind of curious, like, at least for like a quote unquote Web 2 kind of app, how do you decide if any of this information here, like vouched by, certain monkeys, should be like on chain, and like, you have attestation signed by addresses versus like just database stuff?
Yeah. Ultimately, we will put the projects, and the payments obviously are on chain, but the projects will go on chain, and then the vouching will go on chain as well. We're not starting there because we don't need to. Let's start with something to prove that it works. And by works, I mean moves the metrics, and gets people engaged, and moves that 200 out of 2,000 members to 300 or 400. Getting more people engaged, getting more people doing the voting, just because they understand more about what's happening and they're more involved. And once we've proven that, then we go to the effort of building everything out on chain.
Just say you're waiting for Shadow Drive. That's what everyone else is doing.
Okay, waiting for Shadow Drive.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you all for coming and listening to us.